Hi there, Malcolm here with my 399th Booktube video, and today I'll be bringing you a book review for Marvel Select Daredevil, Mayor Murdock, written by Charles Soule and illustrated by Mike Henderson. And this is a reprinting of Daredevil 2015 of numbers 601 to 605. A little while ago, Marvel Select did Mayor Fisk, which saw Kingpin become mayor of New York City and taking on Matthew Murdock as his deputy mayor. The end of the storybook finished on a massive cliffhanger with Matthew Murdock being mayor. So how dare you leave it on a cliffhanger? These are supposed to be sort of self-contained stories for the most part. So finally we've got Mayor Murdock, part 2 of the story, and we can see what happens to New York with Matthew Murdock being in charge. And tonally this is a very different story to the first one, in that New York is besieged by an army of the undead, some sort of horde of zombie hand ninjas led by a being known as the Beast. So it's not only a fight to survive, but it's also a fight against the forces of darkness. And then the Order of the Dragon pop in as well. And there are a few other heroes knocking about, although they don't really get much of a look in, but they're there. And so we're seeing Matthew Murdock trying to be mayor while the city is under siege, obviously trying to do a lot of the bad stuff that Fisk has put into place, while at the same time knowing that as long as he's in the office being Matthew Murdock, people are in danger because he's not out there being Daredevil. And so there's a certain element of him trying to balance the two, and I found that aspect of the story really interesting. However, when he dons the suit and goes out to kick some ghostly bums, it kind of fell into a standard superhero style adventure. There are an awful lot of characters in this. Like I say, there's this lot, you know, the Defenders and Spider-Man, Elektra pops up, you've got these Order of the Dragon, whoever they are. I guess to say this thing is afflicting the whole city, and certainly anyone in uniform appears to be targeted, but we're told, we're not really shown, and we don't see the plight of what's going on through the eyes of the average civilian. So at no point did the threat really feel that pertinent. There's more of a concern about what happens if Fisk comes back, or when Fisk comes back, and what's going to happen there. And of course this guy I didn't know anything about. There's this green gas thing that he's somehow responsible for that does something, but none of it is really explained. I think it's assumed that you know who these characters are by number 600 in the run. And I certainly wasn't expecting some sort of weird metaphysical good versus evil battle across the streets of Manhattan, which although was very cool, kind of came out of nowhere, and again with very little explanation, sort of somehow resolved everything, and there we go, that was the story. I did enjoy it. I was certainly excited to see that they were doing the follow-up to Mayor Fisk, because I was left hanging with this cliffhanger. But at the same time, it assumes that you know an awful lot of what's happened before. It even references, you know, these little boxes, see issue such and such to find out more about what this is. And I felt out of the loop for a good chunk of it. Now, of course, I was able to follow what was going on. I don't know what I was really expecting out of a Mayor Murdock story, but it wasn't this necessarily, although that's my expectations, of course. I'd say it's worth buying. It does give you that feeling of completeness for the first one. And the artwork is quite stylish. The action jumps off the page. So no faults with how it looks. It just wasn't really what I was expecting, but I still enjoyed it. Have you read Mayor Murdock? What did you think about it? And how do you compare it to a follow-up to Mayor Fisk, which I think I did prefer, even though it did leave me on a cliffhanger? Comment down below, please. But as usual, if you have nothing nice to say, then please keep it to yourself. Thank you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and other GP things if you want. And until next time, see you later.